I should have known something was off when she handed me that card. It was Christmas Eve, a time when families come together, share love, and celebrate. But the moment I laid my eyes on the card, I felt the weight of what was coming. Roses are red. It started, and I thought, how sweet, a typical holiday greeting. But as I read on, my smile faded. Violets are blue. You're old and in the way. The words stung, as though they cut deeper than anything she had ever said to me before. My daughter-in-law, Lily, stood beside me, watching intently as I read the words she had made me read aloud for everyone to hear. The room fell silent for a moment. The only sound was the crackling of the fire in the hearth. Everyone else around the table shifted uncomfortably in their seats. My son, Daniel, looked away, his eyes avoiding mine as if he could pretend he hadn't heard it too. A lump formed in my throat, but I swallowed it down, refusing to let them see the tears that were threatening to fall. I simply placed the card down on the table, my fingers trembling just a little. No one said a word. The awkwardness hung in the air like a cloud, thick and suffocating. It was supposed to be a happy evening. I had spent days preparing, cooking, decorating, wrapping gifts. I had set the table with my best china, hoping to make this Christmas special, hoping for the warmth of family. But instead, this Christmas felt colder than the frost outside. Lily's forced smile didn't reach her eyes. I could see the smug satisfaction in her expression as she waited for me to respond, to show that I was hurt, to show weakness. But I didn't. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. I kept my composure, though inside, my heart felt like it had been shattered into 1,000 pieces. I wanted to ask her why. Why now? Why on Christmas, a day that's supposed to be about love and family? But instead, I just smiled. I smiled because that was the only defense I had left. A smile to cover up the pain she had caused. I glanced at Daniel again, hoping to see some sign of regret, but there was nothing. He had turned his attention to his plate, as if nothing had happened. It wasn't just the card that hurt. It was the fact that they had been plotting this for so long, and I had been too blind to see it. They thought I didn't notice how they had slowly pushed me aside over the years. How they had taken over, made decisions without me, and now, even on Christmas, they had no problem humiliating me in front of the whole family. My own son, who once sat on my lap as a child, couldn't even look me in the eye. But I knew one thing for sure. This was the moment. The moment I would stop being their victim. This would not be the Christmas they took everything from me. They thought they could break me with a card. They were wrong. I spent the next few hours pretending nothing had happened. After dinner, I cleaned up the table, ignoring the awkward silence that hung in the air. I could feel the weight of everyone's gaze on me, but I refused to acknowledge it. I was used to this by now, the way they all acted like nothing was wrong, like their coldness toward me was somehow justified. But deep down, I knew better. As I washed the dishes, I couldn't help but replay the moment in my mind, over and over again. The way Lily had made me read that card out loud. The way she'd forced me to confront her cruelty in front of the entire family. I could hear her voice in my head, that mocking tone she used when she wanted to make a point. Roses are red, violets are blue, you're old and in the way. It wasn't just the words that stung. It was the fact that she had planned this. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew that Christmas was supposed to be about family, about love, and she wanted to take that away from me. I couldn't understand it. What had I done to deserve this? I had always been there for my family, always put them first. I had raised Daniel with love and care, and I had accepted Lily into our family with open arms. Yet here she was, treating me like an inconvenience. I finished washing the dishes, my hands trembling slightly as I dried each plate. I didn't want to cry. I wouldn't cry. I had shed enough tears over the years, tears that no one ever saw, tears that were always wiped away in the dark when no one was around to witness my pain. But tonight was different. Tonight, I had a decision to make. As I wiped down the counters, I realized something. I wasn't going to let her win. I wasn't going to let her tear me down any longer. I had spent too many years trying to keep the peace, trying to be the good mother, the good mother-in-law. I had put up with so much, too much, and for what? To be humiliated on Christmas? No, not anymore. I had given them everything, and all they had done was take. Well, that was about to change. I didn't need to confront her right away. No, I would play it cool, keep my calm. But I knew that from this moment on, I would stop being the victim. I would stop letting them push me around, stop letting them take advantage of me. It was time for me to stand up for myself. Later that night, when everyone had gone to bed, I sat in the quiet of the living room, staring at the Christmas tree. The lights twinkled softly, and I found a strange comfort in their glow. This had always been my favorite time of year, when everything felt magical and full of promise. But now, it felt different. It felt like the magic had faded, like I had been left behind. But that wasn't true, was it? I wasn't the one who had been left behind. They had been. They had lost sight of what really mattered. And well, I was done pretending. I didn't know exactly what I would do yet, but I knew one thing for sure. Things were about to change. No more silence. No more playing the fool. No more being the invisible woman who did all the work, who sacrificed everything, only to be treated like I didn't matter. I mattered, and they would see that. I stood up, my heart pounding with a new sense of resolve. I wasn't going to let them walk all over me anymore. I wasn't going to let Lily's words define me. No, I was going to take control. I wasn't sure how yet, but I would find a way to make them understand that I wasn't just the old woman they could push aside. I was Evelyn Carter, and I wasn't going anywhere. The next morning, I woke up early, my mind already racing with thoughts of what I had to do. The house was quiet, too quiet. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant chirp of birds outside, but other than that, everything felt still. I made my coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chairs around me. Daniel and Lily had already left for their errands, and I was alone, just like I had been for so many years. But today felt different. Today, I wasn't just waiting for them to come back and treat me like I didn't matter. Today, I was taking control. I had never been one to make waves, to rock the boat. My entire life, I had kept the peace, tried to make everyone happy, even if it meant sacrificing my own happiness. But no more. As I sipped my coffee, I thought about what had happened the night before. The humiliation, the card, the forced laughter, and how they all had sat there, pretending nothing was wrong. But I knew they had all seen it. They had all seen the way Lily treated me, the way Daniel refused to stand up for me. It wasn't just about the card anymore. It was about years of being ignored, years of being pushed aside, years of them assuming I would always be there to clean up after them, to support them, to forgive them. But not anymore. I wasn't going to be their doormat any longer. I spent the morning cleaning the house, but it wasn't the same. I didn't feel the usual satisfaction of tidying up the rooms, making everything neat and orderly. This time, there was a sense of purpose behind it. I was getting ready. I was preparing myself for what was to come. The house felt different now. It felt like a place where I had lived for too long, a place where I had been taken for granted. But that was about to change. When Daniel and Lily came back, I would be ready. I would no longer be the person they could walk all over. I would no longer be the person they could humiliate without consequence. I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, but I knew I had to start somewhere. As I put the dishes away, I thought about the legal documents I had kept hidden in the drawer, the papers I had been too afraid to look at for so long. The house, the savings, the inheritance, everything that I had worked for, everything that I had built with my late husband, Noel, was now in question. They thought they could take it all from me, just like they had taken everything else. But they were wrong. I wasn't going to let them. The more I thought about it, the more determined I became. This wasn't just about the money or the house. It was about respect. It was about standing up for myself, for the woman I had always been, the woman they had forgotten. I walked into the living room, where the Christmas tree still stood, its lights dimly glowing in the corner. The decorations were still there, the ones I had carefully chosen, the ones I had lovingly placed on the tree. But they felt different now, too. They felt like a reminder of everything I had lost, everything I had given up to keep this family together. But no more. I wasn't going to lose anymore. I was going to fight for myself, for my dignity, for my place in this family. When Daniel and Lily walked through that door, I would be ready. And they would see. They would see that I wasn't the weak, invisible woman they had been treating me as. I was stronger than they ever knew. I had nothing left to lose. And that was exactly what made me dangerous. I woke up early the next morning, feeling an unfamiliar sense of calm. The air was crisp, and the house was quiet, too quiet. I made my coffee and sat down at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chairs. It felt like the calm before a storm, the stillness before everything I had been holding in finally came pouring out. I thought about the events of the previous evening, how Lily had handed me that card and forced me to read it. I could still hear her mocking tone in my head, the way she made sure everyone knew just how little she thought of me. Roses are red, violets are blue, you're old and in the way, the words echoed in my mind like a slap, and yet I did nothing. I didn't lash out. I didn't cry. I simply kept my composure, kept my face neutral. But inside, I was boiling. I knew that last night wasn't just an isolated incident. It wasn't just one rude moment. It was part of a bigger pattern. Over the years, I had seen it. The way they had slowly but surely pushed me out. The way Lily had wormed her way into my son's life and made sure I was no longer part of it. I thought about the holidays we used to spend together, the Christmases filled with laughter and love. But now, it felt like those days were nothing but memories, memories that no longer had a place in this house. I couldn't let this go on anymore. I couldn't let them continue to treat me like I was invisible, like I didn't matter. I wasn't going to stand by and watch them take everything I had worked for, everything I had built, and throw it away like it was nothing. I had raised Daniel to be a good man. I had sacrificed so much for him. And yet, here he was, acting like he didn't even know me. The way he avoided my gaze last night, the way he let Lily control everything, it hurt more than I had ever admitted to myself. I had spent my whole life keeping the peace, making sure everyone was happy, making sure everything ran smoothly. But now, I realized that I had been the one who had been forgotten, the one who had been pushed aside. I wasn't going to let that happen anymore. I wasn't going to be their doormat, their punching bag, any longer. As I sat at the table, I knew what I had to do. I had to stop being quiet. I had to stop letting them walk all over me. I didn't know how yet, but I knew it was time. I was done being invisible. I was done being the person everyone took for granted. I got up from the table, my heart pounding with a new sense of purpose. I walked to the living room, where the Christmas tree still stood, its lights flickering softly in the corner. It had always been my favorite time of year, but now, it felt like a symbol of everything I had lost. I had always believed in the magic of Christmas, in the warmth of family. But that magic was gone now. And I realized something. I wasn't going to wait for it to come back. I was going to create my own magic. I wasn't going to let them dictate my happiness any longer. I had spent so long trying to please everyone else, but now it was my turn. I had a voice, and I was going to use it. I wasn't going to let them push me out of my own life. Not anymore. When Daniel and Lily came home, I would be ready. I would no longer be the victim. I would no longer be the one they could control. I was Evelyn Carter, and I had lived through too much to let them treat me like this. This time, things would be different. I spent the next few days carefully planning my next steps, though I tried to keep up the appearance of normalcy. Lily and Daniel returned from their errands the day after Christmas, and things seemed to settle back into the same routine. Lily acted like nothing had happened, her fake smile plastered across her face as if she hadn't just humiliated me the night before. I could feel the tension in the air, but I refused to let it get to me. I would not let them see that it bothered me. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction. I made dinner like usual, set the table, and tried to act as if nothing was wrong. But inside, I was a storm waiting to break. I watched them eat, listened to their conversations, but it all felt so distant, so foreign. It was as if I was no longer a part of this family. They talked about their plans, about the things they were doing, but not once did they ask about me. Not once did they seem to care. I could feel my patience wearing thin. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. How had it come to this? How had I let them treat me like this for so long? Why had I let it slide? My son, the one I had raised and loved for all these years, couldn't even look me in the eye. Lily, with her fake charm and perfect smile, had wormed her way into his life, pushing me out, making me feel invisible. I couldn't stand it anymore. I couldn't stand the way they all treated me like I was nothing, like I didn't matter. I had been a good mother, a good wife, and yet here I was, being cast aside, discarded as if I were some inconvenience. That night, as I cleaned up the dishes, I finally made up my mind. I was done playing their game. I was done pretending to be the weak, old woman they wanted me to be. I had a lifetime of memories, of love, and of sacrifices, and I wasn't going to let them erase it all. I wasn't going to let them take everything from me without a fight. The next day, I gathered the papers I had hidden in my drawer, the ones I had been too afraid to look at, the ones that held the key to everything. I was going to take control of my own life again. I wasn't going to let Lily take everything I had worked for, everything I had built with my late husband, Noel. I wasn't going to let them take this house, this life, without a fight. I walked over to the phone and dialed the number I had been avoiding. The lawyer's office. I needed to talk to them about the next steps. I couldn't wait any longer. It was time to take action. I wasn't just going to sit back and let them walk all over me anymore. The lawyer answered on the second ring. I told him who I was, and he immediately recognized my name. We set up a meeting for the following week, and as I hung up the phone, I felt a strange sense of calm. It was the first time in a long time that I had felt like I was in control. I wasn't going to let them tear me apart anymore. I wasn't going to let them use me. I would fight for my place in this family, for my dignity, for my rights. As I sat back down at the table, I realized that this was the turning point. This was where everything would change. I wasn't going to be the victim anymore. I wasn't going to be pushed aside. I was Evelyn Carter, and I was going to take back what was rightfully mine. I sat at the kitchen table the next morning, my hands wrapped around a warm mug of coffee, staring blankly at the steam rising from the cup. It was time. I had waited long enough. The lawyer's office had confirmed our meeting for later in the week, and I felt a strange mix of anticipation and dread. For so long, I had let myself be pushed around, thinking that if I just kept my head down and kept being the loving mother, everything would eventually work out. But now I knew better. This was the moment. I wasn't going to be the invisible woman any longer. I wasn't going to let Lily and Daniel continue to treat me like I didn't matter. The house, the money, the inheritance, it was all mine. And I wasn't going to let them take it from me. I could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on me. But there was also something else, something stronger than the fear. It was determination. The woman I had been for so many years, silent, always taking the back seat, always sacrificing, she was gone. And in her place stood someone who was ready to fight for what she deserved. I wasn't just fighting for the house or the money. I was fighting for respect. I was fighting for my dignity. I wasn't going to let them make me feel like I was nothing. I wasn't just going to sit there and take it anymore. I stood up and walked over to the window, staring out at the yard. The trees in the backyard swayed gently in the breeze, their branches bare against the winter sky. Everything felt still, but I knew that everything was about to change. I could feel it deep in my bones. The quiet before the storm. Later that day, I called Daniel. I had been avoiding his calls, not wanting to deal with him. But today, I knew I had to talk to him. I picked up the phone, my hand shaking just slightly, and dialed his number. It rang 3 times before he picked up. "Mom? Is everything okay?" His voice sounded distant, almost like he didn't really care. But I didn't let it bother me. "We need to talk, Daniel," I said, my voice steady. "About what happened the other night." He paused, and I could hear the hesitation in his voice. "Mom, I don't know what you mean." I could feel the anger building in me, but I kept it in check. This wasn't the time to lose my cool. "You know exactly what I mean. You and Lily. The way you treated me. The way you let her humiliate me in front of the whole family. I won't stand for it anymore." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Mom, I don't think you're being fair," he said finally, his voice defensive. "It was just a joke. You're overreacting." I could feel the frustration boiling inside me, but I didn't let it show. "No, Daniel," I said, my voice firm. "It wasn't just a joke. It was disrespect, and I won't let it slide anymore. I've spent my whole life taking care of you, supporting you, and this is how you repay me? By letting your wife treat me like I'm invisible." There was another long pause, and I could hear him sigh on the other end. "Mom, I didn't mean for it to happen like this," he said, his tone softer now. "I'm sorry. I'll talk to Lily about it." But I knew that wouldn't be enough. Sorry wasn't going to fix the years of disrespect, the years of being pushed aside. It wasn't enough to just apologize. He needed to understand. He needed to see that I wasn't just going to let him or Lily walk all over me anymore. "It's too late for apologies, Daniel," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I'm taking control of my life now. I'm done being the person you can ignore, the person you can use and discard when it's convenient for you. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not going to be treated like this anymore." There was a silence on the other end, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had finally been heard. "I'll be meeting with the lawyer later this week," I added, letting the weight of those words sink in. "I'm not asking for your permission. I'm doing what's right for me, and I'm not going to apologize for it." I could almost hear the shock in his voice when he responded. "Wait, what? Mom, what are you talking about?" I didn't answer right away. I just hung up the phone. I wasn't going to explain myself any further. This wasn't about convincing him. It was about me. It was about taking back control of my life. And that was exactly what I was going to do. I sat at the table the next day, the weight of my conversation with Daniel still hanging in the air. It was clear to me now, this was no longer just about the house or the money. It was about respect, and it was about me finally taking control. I could feel the change within myself, a strength that had been dormant for so long, now awakening. I wasn't going to let them continue treating me like I didn't matter. The silence in the house that afternoon felt heavy, as though everyone knew something had shifted, even if no one was ready to say it out loud. Daniel and Lily had been avoiding me, not returning my calls, acting like nothing had changed, but I knew better. I wasn't going to back down. I had taken the first step, and now I had to keep moving forward. The next morning, I went to the lawyer's office. I had made up my mind. I wasn't just going to let them push me around any longer. I had worked my whole life for what I had, and I wasn't going to let them take it away. I sat in the waiting room, the familiar scent of old leather and polished wood around me. But for the first time, I didn't feel the usual discomfort. I didn't feel small, as I had before. No, this time, I felt empowered. The lawyer's office door opened, and I stood up, my heart pounding in my chest, but it wasn't out of fear. It was anticipation. "Mrs. Carter," the lawyer called. I walked into the office, sitting down across from him, and laid the papers on the desk. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I wasn't going to be afraid. "I want to make sure that everything is in order," I said, my voice steady. "I want to make sure that no one can take what I've worked for. I've spent years giving everything to my family, and now it's time to protect myself." The lawyer nodded, his expression serious as he reviewed the papers. I could see the wheels turning in his head, but I didn't need his approval. I had made my decision. This was my life, and I wasn't going to let anyone dictate it anymore. I left the office that day with a new sense of resolve. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to be a victim anymore. I wasn't going to let Lily and Daniel continue to walk all over me. When I got home, I saw Daniel's car parked in the driveway. He was back. He must have come to talk, to try to smooth things over. But I wasn't in the mood for apologies. I wasn't going to let him manipulate me any longer. I walked into the house, and there he was, standing in the living room, looking at me as if he expected everything to be normal again. "Mom," he started, his voice hesitant, "I know things got out of hand. I want to fix this." I looked at him for a moment, studying his face. He looked genuine, but I knew better. I had spent years being manipulated by him, by Lily. "It's too late for that, Daniel," I said, my voice calm but firm. "You and Lily have treated me like I don't matter for far too long. I'm not going to sit back and let you continue to disrespect me. I'm done playing the part of the quiet, invisible woman. I'm taking control of my life now." He looked taken aback, as if he hadn't expected me to say those words. But I wasn't going to back down. This was my moment. I had to make him see that I wasn't someone to be ignored anymore. "You don't get to control me anymore," I added, my voice steady. "I've been quiet for too long, but not anymore." There was a long silence between us, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was truly standing my ground. I wasn't afraid of losing their approval anymore. I didn't need it. The only approval I needed now was my own. The days following my conversation with Daniel felt surreal. There was a sense of calm that had settled over me, but it was the kind of calm that comes before a major shift. It felt like I had crossed a threshold, like the quiet before a storm. I had taken the first step, and now I was waiting for the consequences. Daniel had tried to call me a few times, but I had ignored the calls. I wasn't interested in hearing his apologies anymore. It wasn't about apologies, it was about respect, and I had already made it clear that I wasn't going to settle for less. I didn't need his approval. I didn't need his excuses. I wasn't going to let him manipulate me again. I walked into the living room one evening, and there they were, Daniel and Lily, sitting together, both of them looking up at me as I entered. The tension in the room was palpable. I could feel the weight of their gaze on me, but this time, it didn't faze me. I wasn't afraid anymore. They had underestimated me for too long. They had pushed me aside, but now, I was done being their silent victim. "Mom, can we talk?" Daniel asked, his voice hesitant. He seemed nervous, and for the first time in a long time, I noticed a flicker of doubt in his eyes. It was strange, but it also felt like a small victory. "I think it's time we did," I replied calmly. I didn't sit down. I stood there, facing them both, making sure they knew that I was in control of this moment. I wasn't going to sit in the background, waiting for them to dictate the terms of our relationship. No, this was my turn to take charge. Lily opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off before she could say anything. Let me make myself clear, I said, my voice steady but firm. I've spent years letting you both walk all over me. I've spent years being the quiet, understanding mother, the one who forgives and lets things slide. But not anymore. I'm done. There was a moment of silence, and then Daniel shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I could see that he was trying to find the right words, but nothing he could say would change anything. I'm not here for your apologies, Daniel. I continued. I'm not here for any more excuses. I'm here to tell you that I will not be treated like this anymore. I will not be ignored, and I will not be disrespected in my own home. I've given you everything, my time, my love, my support, and this is how you repay me. Lily looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Was it guilt? Was it frustration? I couldn't tell, but it didn't matter. I wasn't interested in her games anymore. I wasn't interested in pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. What do you want us to do, Mom? Daniel asked, his voice softer now, as if he was finally starting to understand that I wasn't going to back down. What I want, I said, my voice calm but unwavering, is for you both to start treating me with respect. I'm not just your mother. I'm a person with my own needs, my own life, and I'm tired of being treated like an afterthought. If you want to continue to be part of my life, you need to start showing me the same respect I've always shown you. No more excuses. No more pretending everything is okay when it's not. If you can't do that, then I'll make sure you don't get to take anything from me. There was another long silence, and this time, it felt different. It wasn't the silence of avoidance or indifference. It was the silence of realization. I could see that they were both processing what I had said. It wasn't just about the house, or the money, or the inheritance. It was about me standing up for myself, for once. And I knew, deep down, that this was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I wasn't going to let them control me anymore. I wasn't going to let anyone control me. I had taken back my power, and I wasn't about to give it up. The silence that followed my words did not feel empty. It felt heavy, like something had finally settled into place after years of being ignored. Daniel looked down at his hands, avoiding my eyes again, but this time it was different. It was not indifference. It was discomfort. And Lily, for the first time since she entered this house, did not look in control. Her posture shifted slightly, her confident expression cracking just enough for me to see it. That was all I needed to know. Something had changed. I did not raise my voice. I did not argue. I simply turned and walked toward the kitchen, leaving them sitting there with everything I had said hanging in the air. I could feel their eyes on my back, but I did not stop. I had said, enough. For years, I had believed that keeping the peace meant staying silent. That love meant enduring. That family meant sacrificing myself over and over again. But standing there in my own home, I finally understood something I should have realized a long time ago. Silence does not create respect. It only teaches people how far they can push you. Later that evening, I heard Daniel moving around upstairs, pacing. The floorboards creaked with every step he took, back and forth, back and forth. Lily's voice followed shortly after, lower, sharper than usual. I could not make out every word, but I did not need to. I knew what was happening. For the first time, they were not discussing me like I was invisible. They were reacting to me. I sat in the living room, the soft glow of the tree lights reflecting against the window, and for the first time in a long time, I did not feel small in my own home. I felt present, grounded, in control. The next morning, Daniel came down earlier than usual. He stood in the doorway of the kitchen for a moment before speaking, as if he was unsure whether he was allowed to enter. That alone told me everything. Mom, he said quietly, I have been thinking about what you said. I did not turn right away. I poured my coffee, steady, deliberate. Good, I replied. That was all. No anger. No softness. Just truth. He stepped closer, slower this time, like he was approaching someone he did not fully understand anymore. I did not realize how far things had gone, he admitted. I thought everything was fine. I let out a quiet breath, not a sigh, not frustration, just release. It was fine, I said calmly. For you. The words settled between us, simple but undeniable. He nodded slowly, and for once, he did not argue. Lily did not come down that morning. That, too, was new. The house felt different, like something invisible had shifted its position overnight. Not broken, not destroyed, just rearranged. Later that afternoon, I gathered the papers from the drawer again, but this time, I did not hesitate when I looked at them. My name, my home, my life, everything that I had built, everything that had been quietly slipping out of my hands while I stayed silent. Not anymore. I placed the folder neatly back where it belonged, not hidden this time, just placed, because I was no longer afraid of what came next. That evening, as I sat alone for a moment, I thought about that card again. The poem that was meant to humiliate me, to reduce me to something small, something in the way. I almost smiled, because they thought it was just a joke, just a few careless words written on paper. But what they did not understand was that it was not the insult that changed everything. It was my response. I did not break. I did not cry. I saw clearly. And once you see clearly, you cannot go back to pretending. I looked around the house, at the walls that had held decades of memories, at the space I had once filled with quiet sacrifices. It did not feel like a place I was losing anymore. It felt like a place I had finally claimed again. They thought they were pushing me out, but all they really did was wake me up. This emotional story follows an elderly mother who is publicly humiliated by her daughter-in-law during a Christmas gathering, forcing her to confront years of silent disrespect and emotional neglect. What begins as a seemingly harmless holiday moment turns into a powerful awakening as the mother realizes her place in the family has been quietly diminished over time, while the son remains passive and complicit. Through quiet strength and calculated decisions, the mother begins to reclaim her dignity, protect her assets, and redefine her role within the family dynamic. This deeply moving narrative captures the raw truth behind family stories, exposing how love, control, and manipulation can coexist under one roof. As tensions rise and hidden intentions come to light, the mother's transformation from silent victim to composed strategist delivers a compelling journey that resonates with audiences who seek meaningful and realistic family stories. The daughter-in-law's subtle cruelty and the son's emotional distance create a layered conflict that reflects real-life struggles seen in many family stories. With a tone that is calm yet emotionally intense, this story explores themes of respect, identity, and personal boundaries, making it a standout among modern family stories. Viewers who appreciate character-driven drama and slow-burning emotional payoffs will find this narrative especially engaging, as it builds toward a quiet but powerful resolution. This is not just a story about conflict, but a story about awakening, self-worth, and the moment a woman decides she will no longer be invisible in her own life, making it a memorable addition to impactful family stories. Character 1. Elderly white woman, age 72. Front-facing portrait. Natural lighting. Realistic human skin texture. Wearing modest beige cardigan and simple pearl necklace. Calm, composed expression with quiet strength. Subtle wrinkles and gray hair neatly styled. No cartoon, no cartoon. No CGI. No illustration. Character 2. White woman, age 35. Front-facing portrait. Sharp facial features with controlled, confident expression. Smooth skin and styled blonde hair. Wearing elegant modern outfit, suggesting status and control. Subtle cold gaze. No cartoon, no cartoon. No CGI. No illustration.